for younger people, the rule of thumb is very simple. $1 million of life insurance for every $50,000 of income. And the reason is, right now, the safe money rate is right around 5%, and so when people die and their family gets the money, they can't put all that money in the market. You don't want it in a risky, you want it in a safe place. So at 5%, $1 million, at 5% is 50,000. So for every 50,000 of income, you should have $1 million.
Welcome to Redefine Retirement with Ryan Wheless, powered by Allied Wealth. This podcast explores how to live a limitless life of abundance in retirement with clarity, purpose, and confidence. Welcome to Redefine Retirement with Ryan Wheless. Today's guest is someone widely considered to be the retirement income expert, Tom Hegna. He's an economist, author, and speaker who's helped thousands of retirees simplify their retirement plans and secure guaranteed income for life. He's also the author of several best-selling books, including Paychecks and Playchecks and Don't Worry, Retire Happy. Welcome to the show, Tom. Tom, tell me something. Your work is all about retirement income, and you have been beating that drum for as long as I've known you. You've done, I think, 5,000 speaking engagements. I've had the opportunity to share a stage with you once or twice over those 5,000 times, and I've been in the audience probably 30 or 40 times. And what's really cool to me is your message has always maintained continuity. It's always about beating the drum of why guaranteed lifetime income should be the foundation and the core of anybody's retirement plan. Can we talk about that a little bit? Why you feel that way?
Yeah, well, it's really math and science. I read hundreds of white papers by PhDs on retirement. Most people don't read them. And then all I did was I took the information I learned from these studies and these white papers. They get very technical with all these long formulas and everything where they prove it mathematically, scientific. And then I put it in a series of books. My first book was Paychecks and Playchecks. And that's really just the simplified way to retire. Paychecks and Playchecks concludes with 4 simple steps. Step number 1, you want to cover your basic living expenses with guaranteed lifetime income. Step number 2, you want to optimize the rest of your portfolio to protect yourself against inflation. Step number 3, you must have a plan for long-term care. No retirement plan is complete without a plan for long-term care. And number 4, the most efficient way to pass your wealth to children, grandchildren, and charities is with life insurance. Don't give your kids money. Spend your money. Leave them life insurance because you can do that for pennies on the dollar. So I just take all the research that shows how do you get the most for the least in retirement, because that's what it's all about. You don't get a second chance. There's no dress rehearsal. You got to get it right the first time. And that's what I try to help people. And the other thing is now I'm 70% of retirement. So I'm not just talking the talk. I'm walking the walk. I play golf 4 days a week, 5 days a week, sometimes pickleball 2 to 3 days a week. My wife and I are traveling the world. So, I am living what I'm writing and speaking about.
That's awesome, because a lot of people out there don't. You have financial advisors that recommend things, and they don't actually put their money where their mouth is. And I don't necessarily agree with that, because, you should have your financial house in order, too, if you're going to be an advisor. Tom, what is it that inspired your Paychecks and Playchecks approach? Why do you think it resonates with so many retirees?
Well, I'll tell you, the day I decided to write it was April 4th of 2011. At the time, I was a senior executive officer for a Fortune 100 company, and I'm reading the Wall Street Journal, minding my own business, when the headline shows up, Fed's low interest rates, knocks retirees' retirements or whatever. And there's a story about Forrest Yeager, 91 years of age, down in Port Charlotte, Florida, down to his last $45,000. He says, I got my money in a bank. It's only paying me 1%. I'm taking money out of principal. I'm going to run out of money. And I'm thinking, he's 91. He can get guaranteed 20% for the rest of his life in a SPIA, single premium immediate annuity. Would guarantee him 20% a year. He would have been guaranteed $9,000 every year for the rest of his life. He would have never had to run out of money, but he didn't know. There were other people in that article, they were in their 60s and 70s. The markets were crashing. They're freaking out. I said, I got to write a book. So I wrote a book on how to retire the optimal way, based in math and science, not based on somebody's opinion. And it's been a big hit. And, it's helped literally many, many hundreds of thousands of people retire, happy and successful.
That's awesome, bud. So for someone listening who's intimidated by the idea of planning for retirement income, especially, where do you think they should start?
Probably with you. I say, retirement's not a do-it-yourself project. I know this stuff inside and out. I use 2 financial advisors because think about it. I don't sell annuities. I buy them. I own 13 of them. But when I'm ready to buy another one, I don't know which company, which product. They change every 2 weeks. They can have different payout rates, different caps, different, and so I need a financial advisor to help me with product selection because some, as you know, annuities change over time. Some are better for women, some are better for men, some are better for older people, some are better for younger people, just because they're all different. Their actuaries use different numbers. And so you want to find the one that's optimized for you. And I don't know how a person's going to do that by themselves. I really don't. I think you've got to work with a financial professional.
And I agree with that, Tom. It's one of our things that we do when it comes to retirement income planning is we start with your food, your water, your shelter, your clothing, access to healthcare, medicine, transportation, and heck, for some folks, even a vacation, right? Because you didn't work the last 30 or 40 years not to be able to go out into the world and play golf 4 days a week and play pickleball and travel the world, right? I mean, and some of that stuff is necessary. It's what you work for. But we look at those things and we say, okay, listen, if your Social Security makes up $30,000 of these expenses and you need, call it $80,000 a year coming in from these to cover these expenses, so that's a $50,000 income gap. How much of that $50,000 a year would you like to have guaranteed to you as long as you have breath in your body? And Tom, what's amazing to me is people all the time, they raise their hand and say, all of it, right? But there's a disconnect. And the disconnect seems to be that people want the benefits of the annuities because they're the only game in town to provide guaranteed lifetime income, but there's a phobia about them. Why do you think that is? Why do you think annuities get a bad rap?
Well, there's a lot of misinformation. And quite frankly, 10 or 15 years ago, there were some bad annuities on the market. So the insurance industry kind of did it to themselves in some ways. But then you've got people out there, like the guy on TV, initials KF, who says, oh, annuities are bad, they're expensive. Most annuities aren't even fee products. That's a funny thing. Annuities are the cheapest products out there, but they get lambasted as being high fee. It's only variable annuities that have high fees and optional riders that have fees. Otherwise, annuities don't have fees. A single premium immediate annuity, you can't find a fee in that contract. A deferred income annuity, you can't find a fee in the whole contract. MIGA, fixed annuity, you can't find a fee. There's a surrender charge if you cancel early, but most people don't. There's not a fee. Most fixed index annuities, base fixed index annuity, no fee. Most RILAs are not fee products. And so I don't know how annuities got the rap of high fees when most annuities are no fee. So I just think it's an educational process. And by the way, things are getting a lot better. I mean, annuity sales are through the roof. I mean, there's trillions of annuities now on the books. So I think that's pretty much over. I think people are starting to read the real research of the PhDs and the experts who've studied it. I don't know of a single PhD or an expert who studied retirement who does not say annuities should play a foundational role. Now, that doesn't mean you put all your money in annuities, but the research shows 20 to 40% of a retirement portfolio should be in annuities. I'm going to have probably a little more than that because I know it. I own 13 of them. I'll probably have 15 or 20 by the time I fully retire because I just know them. I believe it. It's the highest guaranteed paycheck I can get from any place in the world. Okay. Like if you know a place I can get a higher guaranteed paycheck, call me. I'm not aware of one.
Well, and you seem to really get this because we spend a lot of time talking with folks and, retirement is about solving an equation. And that equation is, when you leave your job, how do you live the next 30 years, 40 years, and now in some cases, Tom, maybe even 50 years in retirement and not run out of money or income in that process? And the only game in town that I know to do that with a portion of your money is to use an annuity. So it's really interesting that we're getting these bad raps. You mentioned long-term care a minute ago. So what's interesting to me is that, long-term care is very expensive. And as we all know, you buy, a daily benefit for a certain period of time. But as you get closer and closer to using the benefits or potentially needing the benefits due to age, the insurance company changes the game on you. They increase your premiums and for the same daily rate you're going to get, or they say, hey, for the same premium you're currently paying, you can have a lower daily benefit, right? The interesting thing about annuities, though, is aren't there some ways to get long-term care benefits without having to pay these long-term care premiums using annuities?
Yes. And I mean, there's several ways. So I have the traditional long-term care where I pay the premiums, and if I don't use it, it's gone. But I got it when I was in my 40s, so it's pretty inexpensive, unlimited benefits. It's the best policy people can't even buy that one anymore. There are other alternatives. Life insurance can be used as an alternative with a long-term care rider. And the nice thing about that is they can't raise your premiums. All right. It's contractually guaranteed that, you put in this much, you have this much death benefit, you have this much long-term care coverage, and you can literally buy a bucket of money. Okay. And if you don't use it, it goes to your kids. So the money's not gone. It's not a use it or lose it. The nice thing about annuities in long-term care is you don't have to qualify medically. You do have to qualify for long-term care insurance. You do have to qualify for life insurance. You have to be in good enough medical shape. And a lot of people aren't when they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s. But annuities, there's not that requirement. You could be in a nursing home and buy an annuity that has a long-term care benefit from some carriers. And so there's some guaranteed issue products in the annuity, and there's some that double or even triple. So if you're getting $2,000 a month and then you need long-term care, that would go to $4,000 or $6,000 a month for a certain period of time. But again, that's why I think that people have to work with a financial professional. How's the average, Joe Schmedlap, the plumber, going to figure that out? I don't know, because I know this stuff inside and out, and I need to work with a financial professional.
Well, and you're right, because it's ever changing. I mean, we have wholesalers coming in our office all the time. They've got this new feature, this new benefit, this change, that change. And it's an entire job just to keep up with the products that are out there and the changes associated with the products. But what's really interesting to me is that we sit in one of the best interest rate environments for annuities we've been in for a very long time. And the benefits that people have right now, the ability to get them, have not been this good in a long time. What's interesting to me, Tom, is that, we've got a president now. President Trump they're recently, talking about firing Jerome Powell. It's hearsay at this point, because Jerome Powell won't lower rates, right? But we know at some point in time, rates are going to have to go down. If rates go down, what will that do to the benefits and features of annuities then versus what's available in the marketplace today?
Well, I mean, the income from an annuity, the interest rate does matter a little bit. Well, what matters more is the mortality credit. So like an older person, let's say you're 85, interest rates aren't going to matter in your payment that much, because you're going to get principal and mortality credits that are going to be much higher than what the interest is. The interest will impact more younger people. So people in their 40s, 50s, that's why they should really be looking at annuities right now, because the rates are pretty good. But here's the deal. And I listen to Trump and I listen to Powell and listen to all this, even if Powell cut interest rates, that doesn't mean interest rates are coming down. That's what people don't understand. See,
right.
What Powell sets is the overnight bank lending rate, which affects about 0.0001% of the population. It affects the banks. Now, in a normal environment, when he lowers 25 basis points, the 10-year will go down and the 5-year will go down. But we're not in normal times. And the last time he cut rates, what happened to real interest rates?
They
went up because the bond vigilante said, no, you're not going to play that stuff. You do that, that's going to cause inflation. We need a higher interest rate to be compensated for taking that risk. So even if Powell lowered rates 1%, I don't think that's going to lower mortgage rates or any of these other rates right away. I mean, it could over time if inflation stays low, unemployment stays low. Yeah, then he can lower rates and it won't. But right now, the market doesn't believe it. And if he starts cutting rates, I think the bond market rates could go up.
Yeah, I could see rates going up too in the bond market. It's very interesting. In the bond vigilante thing, it is real, because the bond market itself does in fact set the rates. But it's just interesting to me because, you've got the annuities, all right? And what we've seen is the opponents of annuities have often said, don't buy an annuity, use bonds in your portfolio for income. And so what's really interesting to me is we use annuities a lot of times as bond replacement strategies in a portfolio. We also use them for guaranteed income for life, because you can't beat guaranteed income for life. So with that said, Tom, what do you feel about that? Is a fixed index annuity, a fixed annuity, a MIGA, is that a good alternative to a bond in a portfolio?
Absolutely. And let me prove it. I'm bringing the receipts because I got all my slides. So Dr. Roger Ibbotson did an entire white paper where he studied fixed indexed annuities against bonds. And what he found is that fixed indexed annuities have outperformed bonds for the last 40 years and are likely to do so for the next 40 years. So what I tell people, you don't have to mess with your stock portfolio, but why be in bonds? I wouldn't put a penny in bonds. I put it in annuities, and you can ladder annuities just like you ladder bonds. I got 13 of them. I ladder them. Okay. Barclays is an investment bank. They do not sell annuities. Okay. They say fixed indexed annuities are superior to bonds. The Wall Street Journal, the headline, the case for replacing some bonds with annuities. All right. Ernst & Young, they sell no annuities, but they got a lot of smart people, and they use AI, and they put AI and their smart people together to figure out what would be the perfect retirement portfolio. And you know what they came up with? 30% whole life insurance, 30% income annuity, 40% investments. I'm not making it up. Your listeners can Google Ernst & Young, an accounting firm, Ernst & Young, life insurance, annuities, and that white paper will show up. You know, BlackRock, let me talk about BlackRock for a second. BlackRock doesn't sell annuities. They got $8 trillion in the stock market. They got more money in the market than Vanguard or Fidelity. Here's what BlackRock says about annuities. All right, let me just read it to you. Adding guaranteed lifetime income combined with a more aggressive asset allocation generates 29% more annual spending ability from one's retirement savings and reduces downside risk by 33%. On top of that, delaying retirement and claiming Social Security benefit from 65 to 67 boosts total annual spending another 16% and reduces downside risk by an additional 15%. Now, these are people who they don't sell annuities, all right? They just know the math and science behind it. And so, you know, the people who poo-poo annuities, they're on the wrong side of math and science. Well, that's what I will tell you. They're showing their ignorance if they're anti-annuity.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And it's just interesting. The conversations that we have to have oftentimes, the phobia has gotten better. But oftentimes people have a little bit of a concern, right? Because we do have these liquidity issues with annuities, right? You know, on an immediate annuity, that's a permanent contract. You can't undo that. Fixed annuity, a multi-year guaranteed annuity, has a time, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever they are. And you can take out the interest from the account only. Some will let you take out more than that in a few cases. And then you have the fixed index annuities. And the fixed index annuities typically allow about a 10% per year distribution rate. Tom, what's a good way to balance the use of annuities for guaranteed income, for bond replacement, bond alternatives, but still maintain some flexibility for folks?
Well, look, you don't want to put all of your money into any one product, to include annuities, all right? You want to have some money liquid, but liquidity is a lifetime event. It's not a one-time event. It's a lifetime event. And increasing your income by using income annuities increases your lifetime liquidity. Now, if your roof breaks down, you're not going to go to your annuity to take money out to fix your roof. You need to have an emergency fund, okay? That's what the emergency fund is there for, is for big items like that. But, deferred annuities, they may have a surrender charge, but you can get money out of those deferred annuities. Normally, you can take out 10% or your interest or whatever. But I would just tell, don't put all of your money into any one thing. You need to have some money liquid. Now, for some people, that's $5,000. For some people, that's $50,000. For some people, that's $500,000. But remember, keeping money liquid, there's a cost to that too, because that money doesn't earn very much interest. A money market fund earns 4.5%, 5%, somewhere in there, 4 to 5%, but it's liquid. If you want to earn more than 4 or 5%, you have to put in something that's not really liquid. I mean, that's the way the investment works. The longer you're in for an investment, the more money you should make, but you should keep some money liquid.
Always keep some money liquid, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with that. So you mentioned a minute ago too, having in the BlackRock study, you can actually take more risk in your equity portfolio if you have some annuities, whether that's guaranteed income providing annuities or a fixed annuity or fixed index annuity. So what does that mean? Does that mean I can go and buy like more NVIDIA stock or be more aggressive with the S&P 500? Can I buy crypto? I mean, what do you mean by more risk?
Well, I'll give you an example. Like I was the biggest crypto non-believer in the world about 5-10 years ago. I thought, well, it's a nothing burger. It's a greater fool theory. You got to find somebody dumber than you to pay more than what you pay. That's what I thought. And then I watched, I think it was maybe Michael Saylor on CNBC, who laid out a totally 100% believable case to a non-believer like me that Bitcoin could hit $1 million someday, a Bitcoin. And I believe it I honestly believe it's going to happen because he laid it out that good. And he said, all we're recommending to our wealthy clients is that they put 1% of their portfolio into crypto, because if it goes to zero, 1% isn't going to kill you. If it goes up to $1 million Bitcoin, you're going to be happy you did it. Well, that resonated with me. So I took 1% of my portfolio and put it into Bitcoin back when Bitcoin was $2,000 a Bitcoin. Well, now it was hit 122,000 the other day or something. I mean, I had put 30,000 in there. It's worth like 1.7 million. And I was able to take that risk because the majority of my money is in guaranteed products. I have guaranteed annuities. I've moved more of my personal wealth to cash value life insurance. I just finished a 12-pay policy, is 226,000 a year. But now all that money plus dividends are sitting in that policy, and I can take that money out tax-free in retirement. So, in Arizona, all the money in annuities and life insurance is creditor protected. That matters to business owners. I get in front of thousands of people. There's wackos everywhere. Somebody wants to sue me. You know how much they're going to get? They're going to get nothing, because it's protected. And so to me, yes, building wealth is important, but once you built it, you better protect it. And then you need to distribute it. You need to take it out. I always tell people, I see people, they got all this money, they're not touching it. And I said, what are you trying to be? The richest guy in the cemetery? I don't want to be the richest guy in the cemetery. I tell people this, you're not getting any younger. You don't get to take any of it with you. Think on that. You're not getting any younger. You don't get to take any of it with you. You're supposed to spend it. But a lot of people can't spend because they're savers. And there's an article that just came out from the Alliance for Lifetime Income. It's actually a white paper by Dr. David Blanchett and Dr. Michael Finca, okay? And here's the point. Retirement, and I know this now because I'm 70% in retirement, retirement's all about spending money. Every day it's spending money. You don't make it anymore. You spend it. Well, how do you turn a saver like me? My entire career, I've saved 30, 40% of my income. I'm not a spender. My wife's a spender. I'm a saver. How do you turn a saver into a spender? Well, let me read you what they say in this. The title of the white paper is Guaranteed Income, a License to Spend. Retirees who are behaviorally resistant to spending down savings, like me, may better achieve their lifestyle goals by increasing the share of their wealth allocated to annuitized income. Essentially, annuities give retirees a psychological license to spend their savings in retirement, and surveys reveal a clear preference among retirees to live off income, and many don't feel comfortable spending down assets to fund their lifestyle. And you've seen that. The people in the 60s and 70s, they got $1 million, they got $2 million, $5 million, and we don't need it. We're very simple people. We don't need a lot. I mean, that's the way my parents were. But the point is, what are you trying to do with your money? You give it to somebody, give it to your kids, give it to your grandkids, give it to charity, spend it, do something with it. You're not getting younger. You don't get to take any of it with you. If you want to be the richest guy in the cemetery, go have at it. I don't want to be that guy.
I think a lot of people that have that mentality, though, Tom, they're just scared. They don't know what to do, and they're caught between hey, I've used my 401k for the last X amount of years to get to where I am. In Houston, Texas, where we're based, we have a lot of people that work at the big oil companies. They bought oil stock along the way. They don't want to sell that oil stock. They won't spend the money because they're scared to. And it's just interesting to me. And I think we've got a retirement crisis in America to where people are undersaved, right? They haven't saved enough, and they're scared to spend money. And the other thing that we have a crisis with is I think we're down to like 11% of companies in America now that offer pensions.
Yeah, I think it's 9. I think it's even lower than that, 9%. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is that, every single person that's watching our podcast right now has the ability to create their very own personal pension plan. It's not hard to do. You just have to take the blinders off and get educated about what's out there and available to you, right? And so an annuity is a great way to invest an amount of money into a program that allows you to have guaranteed income for life and create your very own personal pension plan. It's a great tool, right? Now, you mentioned the other aspect, right? So, and you cash value life insurance. Let's spend a few minutes on that, right? And I know we're kind of digressing here a little bit, but I'm a big fan of cash value life insurance. I have policies on myself. I have policies on my children. I overfund them. And you just mentioned you just got through funding one. Yep. Would you mind sharing your age today?
In 3 days I turned 64. I'm 63 right now.
So you're 63 buying life insurance.
Well, so what I did was when I was 50, I took my retirement from New York Life, and I bought a $5 million term policy at the time because I didn't know how my business would go. I mean, starting a brand new business, I'm a little scared.
Yeah.
And then, but it had an original age term conversion. So when I was 55, I was able to convert it as if I was 50. I had to make up those 5 years of premium. So I had to pay about $1 million up front to get in there. But then I did that. And now when I was 62, I finished it. And I'm so glad. But all my premiums are in there, plus dividends are in there, and now it just keeps growing. You see, whole life is like a freight train. It starts out really slow, choo, 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 but then it gets going, choo, 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 choo. And once it's going, you can't stop it. Nothing will stop that policy. That thing's just going to keep growing, and I can take money out of there tax-free. When I die, it goes to my family tax-free. I mean, and it's protected from creditors, which is very important. I just think too many wealthy people forget about protecting their assets. You got to protect and then distribute.
So a lot of people are in this mindset of leaving behind IRAs, right? Because if you look at the amount of money people have saved, predominantly the savings vehicle has been the 401k since, it is introduced to the Internal Revenue Code back in 1978. And then, if a lot of people take their pensions in lump sums and roll them over to IRAs. So we have the largest asset we have in so many cases, but it's in this tax infested retirement account, right? And so why is life insurance a better way to pass money to your beneficiaries and your heirs instead of an IRA account?
Please don't leave your IRA and 401k to your kids. Your kids will not be happy. They won't even give probably 50 cents on the dollar. I mean, that's the worst money to leave. So what I've found is one of the reasons many people are not fully enjoying their retirements is they think they got to leave some money to their kids. Oh, we got to leave some money to Johnny and Susie. We got to leave some money to Johnny and Susie. And I tell people, you're not supposed to leave kids any money. You're supposed to spend all of your money, leave them life insurance. And I use me as an example because we have 4 kids. So one day we're sitting around saying, how much should we leave the kids? And my wife said, I don't know. What do you think? I said, well, if we bought a $1 million second to die life insurance policy, name the 4 kids a beneficiary, when we're both gone, they're going to get $1 million tax-free. That's $250,000 a piece tax-free plus whatever's left over. I said, let's start there. So we bought a $1 million second to die life insurance policy, name the 4 kids a beneficiary. That policy is completely paid up. Do you know what the total cost of that $1 million policy was? $150,000. So now think about that. For 15 cents on the dollar, we get to leave them $1 million tax-free. But here's the best part. Who gets to spend the other $850,000 that we do? We do. So we can leave them $1 million for $150,000. And I think if people understood that, why would you leave them your IRA and 401k, which is the worst money to leave them because they're not even probably going to get 50 cents on the dollar. We're $36 trillion in debt. We have $229 trillion of unfunded obligation for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, government pensions, military pensions. I know Trump's cutting taxes temporarily, but eventually they're going to have to go up a lot. And that's why I've moved that money to cash value life insurance. I've converted all of my IRAs and 401ks to Roth. And I'll tell you where I made a mistake. I was 63 years of age and I converted about $1 million into Roth, which means I owe $400,000 in taxes, which I expected and I planned for that. Here's what I didn't expect. When I'm 65, I have to file for Medicare. And what Medicare does is they look at my income when I was 63 and I'm in this business. Okay. I never even thought that when I'm 63, what I do could affect my Medicare. So now I'm going to be in that highest IRMA bracket for a year or two. I mean, it's just crazy how the federal government will get you, but they'll get your kids too if you try to leave them near 401k and IRA.
Well, what's crazy, Tom, is that, my dad has done well. He's an airline pilot, actually retired this week, by the way, at age 65, a heck of a career, celebrating him this weekend in his career in aviation. But dad's done well, but all of his money is in IRAs. And, my dad's the kind of guy, he's from a Jewish family up in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And he's the kind of guy where if he grabs a quarter, he can turn it into $1 in a matter of seconds, right? It's just who he is. And I've told him, I said, Dad, listen, I'm quite certain that whatever you have is going to come my way at some point in time. So what we're going to start doing here is we're going to start doing Roth IRA conversions and I'm going to pay the taxes. And he's like, well, why would you pay the taxes on the money that I'm converting over to Roth IRA? I'm like, well, Dad, let me show you the math here. And I showed him the math. He's like, well, son, I don't want that much of my money going to the government, whether I'm dead or alive. And it's astonishing. And, we had the Secure Act, and I call the Secure Act the Setting Americans Up for Taxation Act, because that's really what it was. All right. It was nothing to do with securing retirement. It was setting up Americans for taxation, because what happened is they pushed out the R&B age, but they, as you know, and then what they did is they gave your beneficiaries 10 years to liquidate an IRA. And to me, Tom, that makes a big case to say, wait a second, especially now that's here. If I want to leave my kids money, I should absolutely consider using my annuities, or excuse me, my IRAs to buy annuities and spend those down and take my after-tax dollars and buy life insurance and apply leverage and leave my kids a tax-free death benefit. What are your thoughts on that?
No, that's right. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I've converted all of my I don't have any more IRAs or 401ks. Okay. And I did that on purpose. And I moved, and by the way, most of my annuities are Roth IRA annuities. So that I get tax-free income for the rest of my life, and I'll get tax-free income out of my life insurance. So I've been trying to position myself to get as much real tax-free, not tax-free bonds, because tax-free bonds aren't tax-free. All that interest counts towards the taxation of Social Security and your provisional income. So I mean real tax-free stuff, life insurance and Roth IRAs. That's where I got the majority of my wealth.
And a lot of people don't know about that Maggie rule, Tom, that, you count tax-free municipal bond income interest into your Maggie, and that calculates how much of your Social Security income is taxable. Right. And so you're exactly right. Tax-free municipal bonds are not taxable if you're taking Social Security, or not non-taxable or tax-free if you're taking Social Security benefits. Really right. Interesting.
And when I was a brand new agent, I was working out in Leisure World, they call it Seizure World, but a bunch of seniors, and I was helping them reduce or eliminate tax on their Social Security benefits. And I'd run into so many seniors that bought tax-free bonds because they thought they were tax-free. Well, they're paying tax on 85% of their Social Security. And I would just move that tax-free bond interest into an income annuity. They get more income and they pay zero tax on their Social Security. And I mean, that's how I really built my practice for the first couple of years, just helping people reduce or eliminate those taxes. A lot of people are paying tax on 85% of their Social Security. They should be paying zero, but they don't know.
What's the best way to do that? How do you take somebody in that situation with a 401k or IRA and help them pay zero tax on Social Security? I
mean, look, those income levels for taxation haven't changed in 30 years. They haven't been indexed for inflation. So now almost everybody, if you're a married couple and you make over $32,000, you're considered wealthy by the federal government. You're like Bill Gates rich, and they're going to take up to 85% of your. And if you get over 44,000 as a couple, they're going to take 80 tax your Social Security to 85%. Well, I found people, they were in CDs because they're safe. They were in tax-free bonds because they thought they were tax-free, and all those were tax bombs for them, causing them to pay tax on 85% of Social Security. I would just move the money into things where they don't have to pay tax on their Social Security and still get more income than what they were getting, but they didn't know. The tax-free bonds sound good because they sound like they're tax-free. CDs sound good because they have FDIC insurance, but these are tax bombs that I would help people get out of.
Let's talk about the annuities for a second. When you said FDIC insurance, I mean, I'm a big fan of using, if you've got money you're trying to set aside, maybe you've got, I don't know, $500,000 that you're trying to keep relatively liquid. I have no problem using a 3-year annuity to earn interest, and maybe, putting $400,000 in the 3-year annuity and $100,000 in a money market account. And the reason why is the interest on the annuity is tax deferred. I don't pay any taxes on the interest of that annuity unless I pull money out of the annuity when I need the money. All right. So you mentioned FDIC. Are annuities safe? Kind of like the banking industry. Is it safe? I mean, are people in a situation to where you could lose money? Is there with these guarantees that we make of guaranteed lifetime income? I mean, how do we know the money's going to be there and pay out?
Yeah, I believe the annuities and the insurance are safer than the banks. And I talk about it in Paychecks and Playchecks. I say, look, if FDIC insurance is important to you, then you should only buy your CDs from the weakest banks in America. People go, well, why would I buy from the weakest banks? And I said, well, because there's this much FDIC insurance to insure this much in CDs. There's not enough FDIC insurance to insure Bank of America or Wells Fargo or JP Morgan Chase or any one major bank, all right? So if you really want that FDIC insurance, the way I got it figured, you got to buy from the smallest, weakest bank in America because they're the ones most likely to fail. And if they fail, you got a chance of getting some of that FDIC insurance. But if the big ones all fail, there's no FDIC insurance to cover that. There's not enough. You just go to FDIC.gov. You can read all about it. All the charts are there. All the graphs. You'll see that there's this much FDIC insurance for this much in CDs. And with the insurance companies, I also say all the companies are not created equal. Ratings matter. It's not just what interest rate they're offering you. You should be looking at the ratings, the Comdex ratings, and deal with the higher rated carriers. But then there is a state guarantee fund. There are some funds that can guarantee the money other than just the insurance company. So, just that's, again, why I think you need to work with a financial professional. I don't think this is a do-it-yourself project.
Yeah, but largely it's become a do-it-yourself world, right? Here's your 401k. Put money in there. How much? Right? There's
let me watch a TikTok video and figure it out. Yeah, that's
exactly.
not going to help you in retirement.
It's just not. It's just the stakes are so much higher than anything a TikTok video or can solve. Well, Tom, let's shift gears here for a second. You've written another book, right? And so you call it the Don't Worry, Retire Happy framework, right? So let's talk about that book. There's a couple things, couple steps
this
in here.
Right here. This was on PBS. 80 million homes in the U.S. and Canada. I did a PBS TV special that ran for almost 3 years. And so that played in 80 million homes. What that did was take Paychecks and Playchecks and just expand a little. We added a couple more steps. There's Social Security maximization. Social Security is the biggest annuity most people have. They love that annuity. Pension is another annuity. They love that annuity. And I've never found a person, I've been in this business 30 something years. I've never seen a person say, I don't like my income annuity. They may not like one of their old deferred annuities that was not good back then, but I've never heard somebody say, no, don't send me that check. Just take it back. That's too much. I don't want it. I've never seen anybody not like it. So we added Social Security maximization in there. Consider a hybrid retirement, which is what I'm doing. I work maybe 30% of the time. I'm retired 70% of the time. I still keep I'm still in the game a little bit, but this isn't my priority. My priority is traveling the world, get my handicap down in golf, playing pickleball tournaments and things like that. And so I've changed, that way. And then, home equity. Using home equity wisely, because a lot of people that much of their wealth is in their real estate, and we talk about ways, and there's even a new way now that even since I wrote that book that you can get money out of your real estate without taking a reverse mortgage too. I just learned this a few weeks ago.
Well, hang on, let's talk about that, because one of the things that we do
it's
at
called
Allied Wealth,
Chiefs. It's called Chiefs, but it's not IE, it's EI. They spelled it up backwards, but it's called Chiefs. So you can look it up. But what they will do is they will buy up to 50% of your house. And they're not going to pay for half the taxes. They're not going to pay for your repairs, but they will give you cash for half of your house. Okay. And they just stay there on the title for half of the house. It's your house. You control it. They have no control over the house. You live in it. And then, when you sell it or you die or whatever, they get their cut when it's sold. It's the only time that and it's pretty neat because there's no debt. There's no payments. You don't have to pay them. They just give you this money. And so I'm just thinking for myself, the reverse mortgage is interesting. I talk about it, and Don Graves and Dr. Wade Pfau, we just did a webinar on reverse mortgages. There's like 42 ways to use it properly, and it all makes sense. But there's that debt there, and you got to make a pay, or you don't have to make a payment, but the interest keeps accumulating on that thing, and then eventually your kids or your wife or somebody's going to have to pay that off, right? But with this Chiefs, that doesn't happen. There's no accumulation of interest. There's no nothing. They pay you for half of it, and they own half of the house. And when you sell it, they get half of the money. That's the deal. So to me, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And, when we look at the house, a lot of times, most of my clients that we serve, the house is pretty close to being paid off or is paid off by the time they get to retirement. And we always tell them, listen, that house is an asset out there that's going to grow, maybe 3% a year. That can be a good hedge against the need to cover long-term care expenses that the house itself can.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people, they can take a reverse mortgage, or they can do this Chiefs to pay for their long-term care without giving up their house. And I've even thought about we bought this house up here in Flagstaff, and in 4 years, it's like doubled. Why wouldn't I want to take some of that profit out and just, I don't know. I'm thinking about it because, we got so much money tied up in real estate right now. Why? I don't need to have that much money tied up in real estate. And so, anyway, I found it very interesting, and I don't find a lot of things interesting. So I just thought I'd share that with you.
Yeah, I think one of the best reverse mortgages in history was a guy who bought a house, built a house, and he did a reverse mortgage on it and took the money out of it. But the value of the house plummeted in a big way. And he's not on the hook for that. It's the value that is the asset, not the actual value of the property. So it's very, very interesting what the guy did there.
And you can even buy a reverse mortgage line of credit. So it's just a line of credit that's there. Now, it's not cheap. It costs money to get that line of credit, but that line of credit goes up every year. And so it's almost like buying a put option on your house. You buy this, you have this line of credit. You don't ever have to use it if you want. But if this thing's going up and the housing values are going down, you could literally hand the keys to the bank, walk away with all the money, and it's their problem. It's not your problem. So there are ways to hedge against a falling real estate market.
There are a lot of ways to do that, Tom. Tell me this. When somebody's, and we do back of the paper calculations and get into some deeper stuff, top down, top up approaches to retirement income. How does somebody really know how much retirement income that they'll actually need and how much money they need to have saved to generate that income?
Well, I mean, that's a very difficult question, because none of us really know, like what could go wrong? I mean, markets can crash, they can stay down, inflation could go up to 20-30%. I mean, we don't know, but what you want to do is have at least enough guaranteed income to cover your basic living expenses, then plan for some inflation factor. So I tell people, you just don't want to have income for life. You want to have increasing income for life. And I've done that by having 13 annuities. They kick in at different times. Most of them kick in whenever I want them to. I've got the life insurance ready to go. If I need any more income, that's going to come tax free. So I don't know if you ever really know for sure, but you can get pretty accurate by, and again, working with a financial professional who can put your numbers in a computer and say, if this happens, here's what's going to happen to your money. If that happens, here's what's going to, you got to play different scenarios to find out, what if inflation is high? What if taxes go up? What if the market crashes, stays down for 15 or 20 years? You need to be able to weather most of those situations. Now, if the whole government falls apart and the dollar goes to zero, I mean, then it's guns, bullets, toilet paper, and water. That's going to be more important than your money. So, you just got to plan for what are the potential things that could happen, likely happen, and then try to mitigate those problems.
Yeah, and it's using the right tools to do just that. If my wife goes and says, honey, it's Saturday, I've got to do a picture I want you to hang in the hallway. Okay, cool. I'll go down to the toolbox and I look at my tools, and I've got all kind of tools in the toolbox. But for that particular job, I'm going to grab a screw gun, a wall anchor, a level, and a tape measure. Because God forbid if I hang that picture and it's not level, right? But when that moment I go, I bypass the hammer, I bypass the screwdrivers and the ratchet set and the wrenches and the crescent wrenches and all the Allen wrenches and all the other tools in there. But in that moment, it doesn't make those bad tools. It just makes them not the right tool for that job at that moment. And I think that people have a lot of misconceptions about picking different investment options for their money and retirement planning purposes for income. And, it really does come down to the tool. Like, match the tool to what your need is. Don't try to do like a one size fits all. You mentioned the guy, KF earlier, who hates annuities. Bring me $500,000 and put it in my portfolio and you'll live happily ever after. I just, maybe you might, but you're not guaranteed to. And most of the clients we serve, they want to be guaranteed that. They want to know without a doubt, hey, I worked the last 30 or 40 years and I want to live the retirement that I deserve. And if I can have that guaranteed to me for life, then that makes a lot more sense. You agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, the tools, if people would just cover their basic living expenses with guaranteed income, then do something with investments to help protect against inflation, have a plan for long-term care, use life insurance, maximize your Social Security benefits. These are just simple, and they're based in math and science. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. There's 3 things I can tell you that an annuity will do for you. I will promise you 3 things. Number 1, if you add an annuity to your retirement portfolio, it will improve portfolio performance. BlackRock says it, Barclays says it, the Wall Street Journal says it, the PhD say it. It will improve portfolio performance. Number 2, you're likely to be happier. The Wall Street Journal says the secret to a happier retirement is friends, neighbors, and a fixed annuity. Time Magazine said lifetime income stream key to retirement happiness. So your portfolio will do better. You're going to be happier. And now the research shows you're likely to live longer. There's an attorney, Patrick Tricker. He wrote an article and he said, in the United States, a 65-year-old male who purchases a life income annuity can expect to live 20% longer than a 65-year-old male who does not. Freakonomics did a Freakonomics podcast on this University of Chicago study. That University of Chicago studied people who bought income annuities and people who didn't. And the people who owned income annuities lived longer than the people that didn't. And it's pretty simple. People who have guaranteed income have less stress. They worry less. And because they're being paid to live, guess what? Many of them choose to live differently. They watch what they eat, they exercise, they call the doctor when not feeling well. So who could be against something that improves your portfolio performance, allows you to be happier, and allows you to live longer? I just don't understand it. The people who are against annuities are uneducated, is what it is. They haven't done the research. I've studied this for 30 years, all right? I'll show them all the research.
That's awesome. So tell me this then. One of the challenges that we face as financial advisors, and we deal with this a lot, and we can go back to the tariff tantrum, as we're calling the market decline of 20% here early in the year when Trump announced the tariffs and the pace that he did. And we had, clients calling our office and, they're panicking, right? So we spend a lot of time talking about the math and science, because the math and science is it's factual. It's numbers, right? 1 + 1 always equals 2, 2 + 2, 4, 4 + 4, 8. You can't change that. It's mathematics, right? But one of the things we have to manage is emotions. Let's spend some time talking about how to manage emotions better in retirement.
Yeah, I call it psychonomics. There's economics and then there's psychonomics. And that's why the market has averaged 12 point something a year since 1924, but the average person's averaged 2.8%. Why is that? Well, it's emotions. The market's going up. Oh, I can't miss that. Nvidia's going up 30. Oh, Bitcoin. And so then they buy near the top of the market, and then markets crash. You go, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose everything. I got to get out. I got to get out. And then they get out and they lose money. And so what you want to do is not be emotional. And that's, again, why a good financial professional can hold your hand during those turbulent times. It's also why you want to have some guarantees in your portfolio. You don't want it all to be at risk, okay? Because you're not going to sleep good at night if it's all at risk. So it's just about having the right formula, which I lay out in my books, which you talk about as well, that you have some guarantees, then you can take some risk, and then, and you want to have income. And depending on your age, when you're younger, you want to be wealth building. I wrote my latest book. Let's see if I can find it. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? This one is for young people, and I show people how simple it is to become a millionaire in America today. So when you're younger, it's about building wealth. Then when you get older, it's about protecting wealth, and then when you get in retirement, it's about distributing wealth. And there's formulas to do it the optimal way. Just learn the formulas.
Yeah, there are ways to do it properly. We like to say to buy the income and invest the rest, right? It's a great way to do it, right? Tom, let's circle back for just a minute on life insurance, because, we talk about life insurance and people think about life insurance. I have a massive term policy on myself to insure against dying too young. By the way, I followed your advice, and I can convert that policy as well to permanent policy. And I'm going to do that at some point in time in the future when the time is right to do so. But I also have IULs that I fund as well. And, part of me today is using those policies to protect my family in the event that I die early. All right. But the reality is I have those policies set in place because I want to use them for retirement income. So how do I use a life insurance policy to generate retirement income?
Well, because you can make withdrawals out of that policy tax-free. You can take loans out of that policy tax-free. Now, what I did, a lot of advisors are either IUL or their whole life. Some do both, and which I think is, but what I did with my whole life, I did a paid up additions rider. So I pumped extra cash in there that wasn't part of my normal premium is extra. That goes right into the cash of the policy. And now I don't ever have to take a loan. I can just make withdrawals out of my whole life policy tax-free. And so, for younger people, the rule of thumb is very simple. $1 million of life insurance for every $50,000 of income. And the reason is right now the safe money rate is right around 5%, and so when people die and their family gets the money, they can't put all that money in the market. You don't want it in a risky, you want it in a safe place. So at 5%, $1 million at 5% is 50,000. So for every 50,000 of income, you should have $1 million.
That's solid, man. It really is. And I like how you do that, because put $1 million in the money market today is pretty close to 5%. Well, Tom, I just want to say, man, thank you. And not just for being on this podcast today. I've been a believer in the stuff that you've been preaching for years. A lot of the planning we do, I learned from you, being someone who's listening to you in the audience, from the stage. And I appreciate it, man. I just can't thank you enough for all you've done.
Thank you. I've trained a lot of advisors. I've helped a lot of financial advisors become millionaires or multimillionaires, and their clients to become millionaires, multimillionaires, and live a happy retirement. And that's why I do it. I don't sell I don't sell life insurance. I don't sell annuities. I don't sell any of those products, but I know the power of them and I own them personally. And so everything I write about and speak about, I put into my own life, and it's been wonderful.
Well, that's awesome. So, what we're going to do here, Tom, is I want to make an offer to our audience, and I always do. So for the first 25 people who reach out to our channel here and ask for these projections that Tom's talking about, this put your stuff in this, planning software and look at this stuff, look at guaranteed income options. For the first 25 people who reach out to us, we're going to give a copy of Tom's most recent book here, away to the first 25 people who do. And then Tom, beyond that, where can people find more information about you and your books and resources?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. TomHegna.com. I'm on Amazon, YouTube. I have a whole YouTube channel. People can watch videos for free. So I'd say go to TomHegna.com, go to Amazon, go to YouTube. That's where you can find me.
Well, Tom, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on today. That'll do it for today's episode, folks. We'll see you next time. Subscribe to Redefine Retirement on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.